Hi, everyone, and welcome to ABG Investor Days. My name is Nikola Kalanowski, and I'm an equity research analyst here at ABG. With us today, we have the CEO of Skolon, Oliver Lundgren. The idea is that he will present the company to us for about 20 minutes, and then we will have the opportunity for a Q&A session for about 5 minutes. And with that said, Oliver, please take it away.
Thank you. So hi, my name is Oliver, and I'm the CEO of Skolon, and we will talk about the EdTech space and our journey in the professional learning sector with schools and municipalities here. And we are working with the vision of creating a better, more inclusive, and a more successful school by enabling digital learning for everyone. And I will talk a little about our journey, what we do, and our development the last 2 years. And the idea about Skolon is based on a real problem in society. So the journey started back in 2015 when we read this in media. Schools against a lot of people, and the school results in Sweden were dropping. And we were looking at that, and we could see that one problem was that it took up to 10 minutes to get going with digital tools in the classroom. And if you have a 45-minute lesson and you spend 10 minutes just to find out what tools should I use and where do I find it, you will have a problem. You need to solve that in 10 seconds, and that is what we do today with Skolon. And we act in a space, in a market, where there is an ongoing global change happening in the EdTech system. So what we can see here is the estimated growth of the European education technology landscape in K-12, equivalent to Swedish grundskola and gymnasium. So you can see that we will have a lot of growth in this market, and that is because the ecosystem is changing, and the way you learn is changing away from a system that has been going on before Industrial Revolution, more to technology where you can individualize learning, you can use new technologies and stuff like that to learn more, to individualize and take advantage of every individual's potential. And this is happening in Europe, but it's also happening global in every school, in every city, because schooling is, of course, going around everywhere around in the different countries. And Sweden is one of the countries in the forefront here, but you can also see this trend in the US, in Australia, in Japan, and other countries around. So what we do in Skolon is that we make the digital tools accessible for teachers and students. So we are a SaaS company gathering all these tools and make them available for teachers and students to use in the classroom and in schools. So we solve the problem of where do I have my tools, what could I use when, how do I buy new tools, and all those questions we solve for students and teachers, and we also make them secure and easy to use on one platform. And to be able to do that, important part is, of course, to gather all the content. So we have, during this journey up until now, gathered a lot of the best digital educational resources in this app store and in one place. So we gather applications from the big publishers that is around in Europe. We also gather from more specialized international edtech companies and small edtech developers as well. So we have almost 200 partners that has built an integration to our APIs to be able to reach the user base that we have. So they build integrations to our infrastructure, our platform, to solve these issues that we are talking about here. And on the platform today, we have more than 5,500 digital tools ready to use with one click. And what we also have is this end-to-end solution to bring both simplicity and safety for digital tools in the classroom. So we have this app store where teachers can find new stuff and they can buy it with one click. Even if it's for one student or if it's for 10,000 students, they can buy it easy. Before Skolon, it took up to 2 to 3 weeks to get a new digital tool into your class, but with Skolon, you can do that in some minutes. We have also built in functionality in this platform for handling data and GDPR and those type of issues, which data is where and where is the student information. And in an average class, you use up to 20 different digital tools if you work with digital content. That means that you have 20 different providers that has the personal information of your students and those type of things, and that we can help them solve. We also have this API framework for setting up the ecosystem, building integrations from the tools used in Skolon to platforms like Google, Microsoft, LMSs, so you get your content over to those type of platforms easily with Skolon with one integration. So today, we are one of the biggest and most popular edtech platforms in the Nordic. So we have more than 750,000 paying users in the platform in 5 different countries. And we know that when we onboard new customers, they stay for very long. So we have low churn rate, a high usage, and overall very happy customers in this platform, which means that we can focus on building long-term footprint with our customers. So here in Scandinavia, for example, we are working with the absolute biggest municipalities like Stockholm, for example, since last year, but also many, many smaller municipalities. So you can work with this if you're a small school or if you're the largest of municipalities. This platform is relevant for you. And last year, we also entered the UK market during last year, and we enabled to get 50,000 users on board the first year there, and are now expanding in that market as well. So the first market outside of Nordics. And of course, those markets are much bigger, and that is because the countries is much bigger. So the size of the country is also equivalent to how big potential do you have in the market. So the business model we have created here is what we call a two-sided marketplace, where we have recurring revenues. Over 90% of the revenue is recurring revenue, where we have revenue streams from organizations, schools, municipalities, paying for their users in our platform, and the partners. So to organizations, we sell licenses for this infrastructure platform that I just described, but also for content that they use on the platform. Municipalities don't have to buy the content that they use on the platform from us, but in growing numbers, they are also doing that on the platform. On the content we act as a reseller for, we have a revenue share with the content providers, but the content providers also pay us annual fees to be able to use the APIs on the platform, be visual on the platform, etc., etc. And we also have some service revenue for the customers. But we act in this value chain between the content provider and the organization. That is how we operate. And if we look at the last 2 years, how this have played out, we had in 2021, we have 36 million SEK in revenue, and last year that was up to 103 when we saw growth with this business model. And we have been able to do that with a positive cash flow during the year. So investing a lot in growth, investing in new markets, but we have been able to do that with operational positive cash flow during this years. A small loss in EBITDA level, but that is also related to companies like us. We activate the incomes of the period going forward, so that is typical for fast-growing SaaS companies, I would say. We can also see that this is related to both more paying users, so we have grown the base of paying users substantially, and we have also been able to start growing the revenue per paying user in the platform as well. And we see continuous growth in both of those if we look at the last quarters we have had here. And we can also see that a larger revenue stream is coming from new markets. So in 2001, we had 2% of our revenue outside of Sweden. Last year, we have almost 40% of the revenue outside of Sweden. So we can see that the business model and the platform and the value proposition we have is relevant also in countries outside Sweden. And that is exactly according to the strategy we have going forward. So if we look at the start of this year, we reported Q1 for some weeks ago. We see that we continue to grow our revenue 62% up We also can see that we continue to grow our paying users. We also continue to grow the revenue per user compared to 1 year back. And we can also see that we continue to do this with good amount of net cash and so on. And we don't have any loans or anything like that in this business, so we have a strong financial position, and we continue to do this in a decent financial way, I would say. And that is according to the strategy to be able to handle this in that manner. So continue the journey we have started. We can see that is the beginning of the year. We have organized this growth journey like a typical SaaS company, I would say, where we own our own product. We have our own product and development department. We have our own partners and content team that working with these content providers. We have, of course, local business reps. So the sale process around this is very similar to a B2B business process, I would say. So not much of digital marketing and high churns and stuff like that you can see. It's more of long-term sale relationships. So we have local sales in the different markets, but we can work internationally with the rest of the team, and we are able to achieve this growth with not a super big team, with 40 people. So, and we see that we can continue to do that with a decent amount of team going forward, which of course is very interesting. The ownership structure is like this. We have largest owner from Swedish investment company Simon, our biggest owner. We have the family of Inga with their company Entrepreneur Invest, one of the bigger owner, and some institutional investors as well, the Länsförsäkringar and Swedbank Robur and companies like that joining the journey we do here. So a very strong group of owners in this journey, and since 2 years back we are listed at Nasdaq First North. We're also working with sustainability, and we have working with this the last 2 years a lot, being able to take full advantage of those reportings and have a strong foundation in this area now. And that is important for our customers, because many of the municipalities, they have quite high standards when looking at sustainability going forward, and we are a relevant partner for them there, achieving many of those baseline goals that they have nowadays. So if we look forward and what are we going to do forward, we think that our greatest opportunities lies ahead of us, and we have communicated a long-term vision and the goal of continue to have a growth for recurring revenue by 50% in average per year. And the last 2 years, as you can see, we have achieved to be above that, but that is the goal we keep and that we work hard every day to keep. And the revenue should accelerate with more paying users in the platform, so continue to grow the user base, but also continue to rise the recurring revenue per users. And that is why we're investing in more markets and expanding the markets that we are in, but also expanding the product and the platform. And I will talk more about that shortly. So the long-term goal we have is to be a market leader in Europe, a position that we already have in the Nordic region going forward. So if we look at product development, we will continue to add more user groups. So one user group we are working with now, for example, is the family and the parents, and that is very relevant. We have the teachers, we have the students, but we don't have the parents in the platform yet. But that is an interesting area going forward. We are also looking more at higher education, for example. So when looking at that, we can see that we have a lot of possibility to continue to grow in existing markets with more user groups. We are also looking at AI, both using AI in the classroom. We launched our first tool there just before the end of last year, and we are continuing to expanding and the development of that product, and we see usage of that, both for administration for teachers. 20% of a teacher's time goes to administration today, and teachers is one of the biggest group of workers out there. So help them save time is essential to have more time to spend with the kids in the classroom, and AI can really play a role there. It can also play a role in individualized learning and stuff like that, and we are working closely with the bigger IT AI model providers like OpenAI and stuff like that to be able to bring that into schools even more going forward. We are also looking to continue to grow in the Nordics. So Sweden and Norway, our home markets, we would say. We see that the markets there is continue to transform. We see usage rising. We see more paying users, and we can also see increased volume from existing agreements. So in both those countries, we are added on the national frame agreements. We are able to go out and sell to municipalities. In Sweden, over 85% of the municipalities can buy Skolon without buying or making their own procurement. So very easy to adopt and start using Skolon. We see growing numbers of that in Norway as well. So here we still have a lot of market potential, and we continue to work with that. And beyond that, we are also expanding outside Nordics and take advantage of markets here that are behind what we are in the Nordics. So if you look at the average European market, I would say like they are 5 to 10 years back from where we are here, meaning that bigger markets like England, for example, that we are now, but also France, Spain, and Germany are coming now, the coming years, investing heavily in EdTech solutions. And we see a possibility to be there when those markets now are ready. So that is the journey that we are doing and the goals we have going forward. So thank you for that.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for that, Oliver. I think just a couple of questions from my end. You've entered the UK market relatively recently. You've been active in the Nordics before that. Could you tell us anything about what sort of potential the UK market holds relative to the Nordics?
Yeah, so if you look at the market itself, if you look at the number of potential users, you can see that only in that market you have 10% or 10 times the bigger, the market than you have in Sweden, for example. So it's a lot bigger market. So that is, of course, very interesting. Another interesting thing is that the school system they have in England is the biggest global educational system that you have in the world, because countries like India and Australia and a lot of other countries have the same school system that they have in England. So we see that as a door opener for other countries as well, if we manage to do that well.
That sounds like a great springboard to other systems, as you say. And I think if we can just help investors unpack your offering. Firstly, you have a SaaS platform, and then you have some partner revenues. So how do the gross margins differ between the two, and how should investors think about the mix changing going forward?
Yeah, so the gross margin on the own platform is, of course, much higher than what you have when you do revenue split with our content partners. So if you look at the last 2 years, I would say that we have seen a lot of growth in both, but especially in the resale part. And that is because we have won a lot of these frame agreements. And what you can see with that is like you see a short-term down in the gross margin because a lot of growth. So a positive thing, but if you look just at the growth margin, short-term effect on that, on the negative side. But in the long term, I would definitely see that we will have more of the mix we have had before. Because of that, you see more customers investing in more advanced versions of our platform, upgrading to more of the new functionalities we have and so on. But that takes a little bit longer time, both to get in, but also the financial effect because of you have this activating of that income and so on.
Yeah, and just a follow-up on the partner revenues. So essentially what that means is you're taking a cut from the partner because you're acting as a distributor. The partner in question is allowed to integrate their app with Skolon. So today you have a certain take rate. Do you see that take rate changing over time as Skolon's position becomes more important, so to speak, and greater?
Absolutely. I see several areas to work with that over time, both what type of content are you using in the classroom, and we gather a lot of data of what is used and how is it used and what type of content should they use. So of course you can build revenue streams regarding that, but also the negotiation with the partners and the value we create over time. If we have more users in the market, of course, we bring a lot more value to them than what we do when we are newer in the market. So, of course, we should work with that strategically over time. We should also work with it with a great responsibility, because we get a lot of information and a lot of insights in the market, and we need to work with that carefully and in the long term, but definitely we see great possibility to work with that over time.
I think you mentioned some usage data. Do you have anything that you could say about the usage data lately as compared to, say, last year or 2 years ago? How has the user experience changed? Has usage gone up?
Yeah, we see a substantial rise in usage. So if we look at the high season in the schools now, we see that 70% usage increase in the same amount of users like last year, compared to last year. So we see that the usage are rising substantially, and I would say that is because the schools are working more with digital tools. They see that this have an impact in the classroom. So in the debate around in Sweden, we see a debate now regarding physical books vs digital, but you can see from a teacher's perspective and in the classroom, they are working more with technology. And that is not because someone is telling them to do so. That is because it makes a difference in the classroom. And the usage of social media for young people, and that is a big issue, but that has nothing to do with using of technology in the classroom. That is something that you need to solve home, not in schools and in classrooms. So digital tools is very relevant in teaching, and you can see huge increases. For example, Japan is a super relevant example there. They have been second now in the PISA reports globally, and they are investing a lot in digital technology, both hardware and software, and they have risen from quite bad levels to very high levels, and the researchers there say digital plays a big part of that. So I definitely see that there's a lot of potential going forward with digital tools in the classroom.
Yeah, and I believe in the presentation you mentioned that you're something like close to 40 people at Skolon right now. Do you feel that you are right-sized with the current workforce, or can something be done to accommodate your growth target of about 50% per year?
So if we look at the Nordic markets, I would say that we have the team there in place to continue to grow there. If we expand to more markets, of course, we need local teams there for marketing and sale and so on. But the continuous growth we can see in the Nordic markets, I think we have the team in place for that. So that of course makes it very interesting to add those 100,000 or 200,000 more users in the Nordics, because that will have substantial impacts on the financial for us, and that is what we're aiming for.
Yeah, and I think finally, perhaps, would acquisitions be something that you would be interested in order to, let's say, expand a sales force in a new market, for example, or for different reasons?
That could definitely be relevant, both that and also vertical of this sector where you see new opportunities arise. So we get quite good view with data over what content is relevant, what content is used where. So, and also in new markets, we could also use acquisition as a part of the strategy. So absolutely relevant going forward.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, the paying user is an individual student or a teacher that has an individual account in our platform. But in our part of the world, the fee for that user is paid by their municipality or the private school. So they don't pay themselves. They have an organization paying for them. But the paying user is someone who has a paid account, and they have an individual user account in our platform. That is a teacher or a student. You could say that around 15% of the users are teachers or professional school workers, and the rest of them are students, I would say, 50 to 20.
Wonderful. Thank you for the question, and I'm afraid that we're out of time for now, but thank you very much, Oliver, for the presentation, and thank you to everybody else for listening in.
Thank you for having me.